It's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
This morning. Sad breaking news from last night. Hollywood actor Val Kilmer died yesterday, age 65 years of age. He had throat cancer. New York Times reporting that he died from pneumonia. What a great actor.
Yeah.
Seriously, you know, we had talked about it earlier, some of the things that he had done. I mean, the things that you feel probably most memorable, probably Top Gun, you know, the second one. I mean, Top Gun Maverick.
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't the same kind of role that he had, but I mean, as you said, in that moment when they met,
and the second one, and
yeah,
it was a really sad moment, given that it was Val Kilmer in that role after everything he had been through.
And the things that's strange for me is the first movie I remember him in was Real Genius.
Oh yeah.
Was Real Genius? You know,
that kid.
He was a kid.
Yeah.
I think that was 84 or 85.
Mm-hmm.
And so not really a kid. I mean, he probably was 25 at the time, but he looked so young. That was one of his first movie roles. So it's interesting that I think about it. I go, wow, I was an adult all the way through all the things that he did his entire life. But you think about it, Tombstone. For me, as I said earlier, was the movie Thunderheart. That's my favorite movie that he did. And I think it's just a combination. I just love that movie. I just love the storyline of it. I love the chemistry between him and Graham Greene in that movie. Was just a wonderful movie. And the cinematography of being in the Badlands. And the cinematography was just incredible.
Yeah, it was well done.
But his acting, you know, when I first saw, as I mentioned earlier, when I first saw The Doors, I went, it's sort of sleazy. And then I said, okay, forget about that. Just watch him act. Like, wow.
Yeah, he just became Jim Morrison. It was kind of creepy in a way, because it was like watching somebody come back from the dead.
Yep. And in the documentary, who did the documentary? Was it HBO? I can't remember. I know you can get it on YouTube. I didn't pay for it. I know that. So, was it on Prime?
I think it was Prime.
Okay. It's worth watching. I think his son is the one who did it. The documentary.
Yeah. I think it was Amazon Prime.
Okay. It's really, really good. And it talks about, you know, there were directors he didn't get along with.
Yeah.
And, you know, you read that he could be tough on the set and all that. And then I forgot who it was. It was a female actress who said, no, he was great to work with. And all I know is, and you may want to check this out. It's a great little outtake from Tombstone. It's Val Kilmer and my friend Buck Taylor, who was newly on Gunsmoke. Met him years ago at the Fort Worth Stock Show and Rodeo. He came up to me. He was a fan of my show, and I had no idea who he was when he introduced himself, and somebody in line after he left told me who he was, and I chased him down. And, you know, we've been...
You shouldn't have tackled him, though. That was a bit much.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
But, you know, he was a gymnast.
Yeah.
He was a world-class gymnast. Buck Taylor was.
Yeah,
It's like... but just a great guy, and he had told me a long time ago about, because I was asking him who had some of his artwork, and Buck Taylor's one of the best Western artists in the world, and I think he did. I think that's where he mentioned. I think he mentioned Powers Booth, the late Powers Booth, and Val Kilmer had some of his stuff, and so I went, and I've got one too. I've got a Buck Taylor right on my fireplace. He's one of the world's best Western artists, Buck Taylor is. But it's Buck Taylor and him in an outtake as they're getting ready to ride. And Val Kilmer looks at him and says to him, he says, I love you, Buck. Oh, I love you. It's just so great. And I posted that on and that always reminds me of I love that because if you know Buck Taylor and you're friends with Buck Taylor, the word love comes up. You say all the time, we leaving. Love you, Buck. Yeah, me too. He's just Buck Taylor, a great guy. But he told me, he said, Val Kilmer's a great guy.
Yeah.
And there are people whose word you just take and go, well, that's gospel truth. Because Buck Taylor is salt of the earth.
Mm-hmm.
He's the nicest guy you ever want to meet. I don't know of a nicer guy you could meet out of Hollywood. Ever.
Right.
And the thing is, there are people listening right now to the show that have met Buck Taylor at one of his art shows and will say the same thing. They'll go, yep, Gary knows him.
Mm-hmm.
Because he's like that with everybody.
Right.
He's just such a down-to-earth guy, and so I know he's probably hurting today because of it. But what a great actor, really. Just
the documentary is Val. It is on Prime. It was a Prime. That's where it premiered. They did put it in a couple of film festivals, but it was. It's sad to watch, but it has some really great moments. Yeah, he talks about he and his daughter going out on a daddy-daughter date. I mean, she's an adult, but so he was getting excited because she was coming over to pick him up and the whole thing, and it's again, there are many people that say he was just a good guy, and that's one of the keys in anything you do. People want to get along with you. They want to work with good people.
You said when you saw The Doors, you just went, oh, that's Jim Morrison.
Yeah.
You think about both Gene Hackman and Val Kilmer. Unheralded in a way, because Val Kilmer could have been a heartthrob kind of actor, and he wasn't.
Oh, he could have leaned into that and all day made as much money as you want to make.
Yep. And he didn't do that. But both those actors, you believed they were that person.
Yeah.
You never thought about it. It's just you never thought it's Gene Hackman. And you think about it, to do that means they never got typecasted.
Right.
Now, I mean, they didn't do a TV series.
Well, Gene Hackman said when he retired, he said, I'm not comfortable with looking at me as I age and have less hair and I look like an old man. It's, at some point it's time to, hang it up. I would and did then disagree with Gene Hackman. I think he was great. And, he had that presence. That's the thing is if you bring Gene Hackman in, it's like now you've got everybody's attention.
Oh, I can't think of the name of the movie when he was with, I can't think of the name of the movie. The government movie with Will Smith.
Oh, Enemy of the State.
Enemy of the State.
Yeah.
God, he's great in that movie.
No.
He's great in that
because
movie.
he is that guy. I mean,
yes.
I'm not saying he was that guy, but he became
that
him. Character.
You bought it hook, line, and sinker.
Oh, man.
You didn't sit there and say, come on, nobody really exists like this, because really nobody exists like that.
Well, his performance made me go to the window and look out the shades going, okay, who's here? I mean, it was,
who's got a device in my house? Who's listening to me?
My dad was in the government. Maybe I need to be more careful. I mean, he brought that together. To me, he was the lead in that movie, not Will Smith. Everything was centered around Will Smith. Yeah. And I know who got top billing, but
Will Smith was Jerry, and Hackman was George and Kramer combined.
Yeah. One movie that Val Kilmer was in that you said you did not see.
I've never seen Heat.
Heat.
I've never seen it.
And he's part of De Niro's crew, the bank robbers. And he's, he's kind of a loser guy. He's going through relationship issues, going through a couple of things. He's, And I thought, oh, I don't know that I like this guy. And then I thought, oh, well, wait a minute. That's the whole point of acting. You want to like a character that Val Kilmer is doing, but then it's like, oh, no, not always. James Woods. Oh, my gosh. He's played some squirrely people.
Oh, man. The first time I ever saw James Woods was on the Rockford Files.
Right.
It's like the second episode, I think it was, of the original Rockford Files. And I hated him. I didn't like him at all. And every role he was in, I didn't like him. And then one day I had to wake up and say, Gary, he's acting. He's a nice guy.
he played this con artist and was John Voight's friend in Ray Donovan, the series from Showtime with Liev Schreiber. And James Woods was Sully, is the name of the character.
Mm-hmm.
Which is a perfect name. And it was like, yeah, you got the perfect guy for that. And John Voight played a con artist. He played Ray Donovan's dad in the show, and he was a bit of a con artist and pulled it off. I mean, it was just that kind of that's what you want, right? You want that kind of Hollywood. You want the kind of movie or show that takes you out of it and puts you somewhere else.
John Voight was great in Enemy of the State, too, though.
Oh, yeah.
He was really good in that.
Yeah.
And the one movie we both talked about that I don't know how popular it ever was, but I thought it was one of Val Kilmer's best performances was The Saint.
Yeah.
Because he played so many different characters.
It was so intriguing. It was this was pre-Jason Bourne.
Yeah.
But it wasn't all spy stuff. It was, but there was this whole thing about energy and how you could change.
Yeah.
It would change the entire world.
Yeah, exactly.
They really made that work. And, it was fun.
And then the characters he would play.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah. So.
And remember in the beginning of it where he was like the artist, I said, oh, that's almost like you're playing Jim Morrison of the Doors. Remember the beginning? Yeah. He's got the leather pants on and everything else. You go, what are you doing? Going back to that old movie, but he was just great in that.
Right.
Great in that movie. Wow,
it was a fun movie. It was a fun movie.
But the thing is, too, you mentioned Jason Bourne. Mm-hmm. He never jumped into a role and said, I'm going to stay in this role. He didn't do like a John Wick.
Right. Yeah.
He didn't say, okay, I'm going to do this role now. Okay, let me do this genre of movies. He would go there and then do something completely different.
Right. Like in Heat, he wasn't the lead. You have Pacino and De Niro. There's those are your two co-leads. But then there were so many people in that movie, and he probably looked at it and said, "Look, I'll be anybody." But that character, he pulled off that character. I think if there's any disappointment, it would be that I didn't see enough of his character in it, or his character wasn't involved enough in the action of the movie. But again, that's the whole point. You got a situation of this crew of bank robbers that De Niro pulls together for the movie, and for the bank heist that they're doing in the movie. And it was, I think I go back to Tombstone. I own the DVD. Now, the problem is I don't own a DVD player, but I own the DVD, but anytime it's on, if I come across it in streaming anywhere, if I see it in the queue, boom, I'm going to watch it. I think I own it on online as well.
I've never seen the Batman.
Oh,
never seen the Batman.
With
Batman Forever.
Yeah, Batman Forever.
Yeah. He was this 2005 Kiss Kiss Bang with Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah,
they had some pretty good chemistry. I've watched part of it, but never watched the whole thing. That never got to me. I don't know what it was about.
The thing about the Batman things, it's like I watched a few along the way. I just have a hard time watching a grown-up in that costume. I don't care who it is. What's his name? Christian Bale, who's a really great actor, and his Batman movies did well. It didn't matter. you put that suit on and sorry. It's like, really? You're going outside dressed like that as an adult? But no, I mean, he could have, Val Kilmer, could have leaned into a number of roles or genres, as you said, and just made money hand over fist. But he was an actor. That's what he did.
It's so sad.
It is.
Age 65, Val Kilmer. 866-90 Red Eye.
This morning's USDA Farm Report is brought to you by House Products. Tested, trusted, guaranteed since 1920.
Springtime visits to the nation's capital includes timing such trips to see the tidal basin cherry trees in bloom. And as director of the U.S. National Arboretum, Richard Olson notes,
it wouldn't have been possible without the United States Department of Agriculture.
It was the work of Dr. David Fairchild as head of the then Plant Exploration Office, which later became part of what is now the Agricultural Research Service. In 1912, his work in growing ornamental cherry trees and introducing them to First Lady Helen Taft culminated to a gift from the country of Japan.
The original gift had something on the order of 10 or so dozen varieties thereabouts.
The National Arboretum also assists the National Park Service as needed, part of a long-term relationship between the two agencies regarding the tidal basin cherry trees. This year's National Cherry Blossom Festival continues through April 13th. I'm Rod Bain reporting for the U.S. Department of Agriculture in Washington, D.C.
This report brought to you by Cenex Fuels and Lubes.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90 Red Eye.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's our Carly, and I'm Gary McNamara. Okay, getting into more details of these two stories here, showing you Democrats aren't going to stop. This here, California Democrats voted down two bills on Tuesday that would have banned biological men from participating in women's sports and entering girls' locker rooms. The assembly bills sought to restore sex segregation for school athletics in the California Education Code and ban male athletes from competing on girls' interscholastic sports teams, respectively. The two bills offered by two Republicans failed 7-2 along party lines of the committee, which means the bills were authored by two Republicans. That was the only votes. They're the only ones on the committee. All 7 Democrats voted against it. Republicans had hoped all 7 Democrats voted against it. Republicans hoped they might find an ally in California Governor Gavin Newsom, right?
Yeah.
Who called male participation in female sports deeply unfair in a recent podcast. Although Secretary of Education Linda McMahon urged the governor to support the bill or risk losing federal funding, Newsom did not comment on or announce public support for the legislation.
Wow.
Assembly Democrats are so committed to allowing biological boys into girls' sports and locker rooms rather than protecting our daughters, Republicans had in a statement. The vast majority of Californians and Americans agree. Keep boys out of girls' sports. Assembly Democrats are radically out of touch with common sense California citizens, and the voters will hold them accountable to restore justice and fairness in girls' sports. Not necessarily.
No.
It's California.
Yep.
They might not be held accountable for it.
Right.
Don't assume that. You shouldn't assume that. You're a Republican assembly person in the state of California.
Exactly.
You should never assume something like that. But just show you how mainstream it is, the misogyny that exists in the Democratic Party is mind-boggling.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
And he's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Continuing on the radical transgender movement, Colorado Democrats are proposing a bill that would classify misgendering and dead naming. And dead naming is if somebody changes their name and wishes you to call them by their different name other than their birth name, and you don't do that. Mm-hmm. But Colorado Democrats are proposing a bill that would classify misgendering and dead naming as forms of child abuse or coercive control that would be considered in child custody disputes. The bill was introduced on Friday and is set to go before the House Judiciary Committee yesterday, I guess. Don't know how it went. All Democrat sponsors. The bill subscribes to the false idea that one can identify as or become a different sex than they were born, as often called gender identity. The bill defines misgender as to purposefully and with intent to disregard the individual's gender identity or gender expression, refer to an individual using a pronoun that conflicts with the individual's gender identity or gender expression. According to the bill's summary, the legislation would direct courts making child custody decisions and determining the best interest on the child for purposes of parenting time to consider misgendering and dead naming as coercive control or child abuse.
Wow. Well, we told you so, number one, and this is not the end. Whether this gets through or not, this is going to be their attempt until it does get through.
The bill would additionally define dead naming and misgendering as discriminatory acts in the Colorado Anti-Discrimination Act, which would essentially prohibit calling individuals by their real names or biological sex in places of public accommodation. Or what?
Or what, yeah. What?
Nobody I know calls me by my name. It's either Mac or G. You know that a lot of people that know me call me G?
Really?
They're really lazy. Gary was too long. Just call you G.
Takes a lot of time to say Gary. Gary. See what I'm talking about?
Yeah. Gary.
Yeah.
You know, I always hated my name when I was a kid.
Did you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, because of the way you just said it.
Mm-hmm.
Gary.
Yeah.
You know.
Gary. Yeah, that does sound annoying, doesn't it? Gary. Oh, my gosh. That's awful.
It's a little bit different than Gary.
No. I got a worse one. Eric. See? I have a friend,
but I was
longtime friend calls me Earache.
But I was Gary Michael.
Well, if you were Gary Michael, you were also in trouble.
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
Yeah. Gary Michael! If it wasn't the priest, it was your parents.
You know how I got the name G? It happened about...
I'm guessing your first initial...
Well, yeah, but it came from... somebody actually came up with it. A friend of mine, she came up with it because...
She spent a lot of time on it?
Well, no, I used to sign, I'd send a text when texting first came out, and I would just put a little G in there. So she started calling me Little G.
No.
And then it's a ton of women in my life that all call me, I don't think they call me, nobody calls me Little G anymore. It's just G. But I had a little G on my text. So
anybody call you
G.
Old G?
Nah, I don't get called. I get called idiot, moron, jerk face.
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that. But I haven't thought about suing, or I don't view it as anti-discriminatory.
Right. Yeah.
It may be cruel
You
and
know what
hurt
I
my
get-
feelings permanently.
You know what I get called a lot? I think it's generational. Boss. If they don't know you, right, and they're trying to get your attention, hey, boss.
Boss.
Hey, boss. I was at a racetrack, convenience store right down the block here. And I started to walk away, and the card reader didn't work properly, so it didn't pay. And the guy goes, boss? Hey, boss. This guy thinks I'm the boss. He thinks, look, I look like I would be the boss. Actually, no. I think and it happened a few more times, and I'm thinking it has to be generational.
I call every guy I see if I don't know their name. I'm walking in somewhere, and I'll say, excuse me, sir. Everybody is sir.
I always say sir and ma'am, and
yes.
even there was a very young lady, looked to be 20, at the store the other day helping me, the machine again, the self-checkout thing. She had to come swipe her ID because I was buying contraband something. I don't know what it was. It wasn't alcohol. You buy detergent. They got to come over. And I said, yes, ma'am. She goes, oh, nobody ever calls me ma'am. And, well, they should, ma'am.
Well, I call everyone, every guy, if I don't know their name, sir.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, sir. Go ahead. When I get called sir, I hate it.
Well, no, because it means old.
I know, but
I can't stand
But
it.
There would be a 16-year-old kid walking through, and I'll say, go ahead, sir.
Yeah. Well, no.
I call everybody, every guy, I'll call sir. Now, maybe if you're 5 years old, I won't say sir.
Well, because here's the thing. You, for the longest time, I'm thinking people are being nice to me because, I'm clearly a great guy. And now it's people are being nice to me because they think I need help. I need assistance. And I'm okay with it. I'm just having to get used to it.
Do you
need help with your groceries? It's a pack of gum. I'll be okay.
This happened just last summer. Mm-hmm. I was getting something that I needed ID for.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it was extra strength laundry detergent.
Right. Your senior discount at Luby's. Yeah.
It was at the self-checkout.
Yeah.
And I give my ID to my license to a young woman to look at.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, is this fake ID?
What?
What are you talking about? She didn't think I was as old as I was.
Oh.
I burst out laughing. And I know some of the other cashiers, and I got their attention. She thinks this is fake ID. I said, would you please call the manager? Call the cops. I want to make a big deal out of this.
Tackle him.
And she was like, are you mad? I go, no, I'm extremely happy.
I've had that happen before.
This is wonderful.
When it happened to me, they thought I was much older. They're like, you're not there. No, this says you're only 59. You're 89, right? Right?
No, she thought I was much younger, so that was good. That was really, really good. It's like, all right.
Yeah.
Where she thought it was fake ID.
Well,
is this
okay?
Fake?
And getting back to what people call you, I mean,
yes, go ahead.
That's the thing, is that in life, if people don't know you, they might. And here's the other thing too.
Yes.
The activists here really aren't concerned about what people say. They want your kids. They're coming after your kids. This is abuse. You don't have the right in the classroom. You don't have the right in the surgery, in the operating room. You don't have the rights as a parent. How long before they just rewrite the bill redefining a parent? Just take it all off the table. No, the state controls everything.
It's important to bring these stories out. You know, I'll get letters from the left. You guys keep harping on the same thing. Yeah, because that's in response to you harping on the same thing.
Yeah.
So we're responding in the same way. But it's important, I think, to understand, because I do think that some people, not all, but some people after the election thought, okay, it's clear sailing for the Republicans.
Mm-hmm.
It's all over. They've been defeated. Yeah, they've been defeated in 2024. They're not stopping. None of them are stopping. That's why we thought it was important to play the focus group from Frank Luntz earlier. 15 Democrats. How many believe that we should become more centrist in order to win elections? 4 out of the 15, 11 said they need to be more liberal. Yeah. They're not the Democratic Party that promotes the racism of identity politics, judging people by a group that they decide that you're in, and not you as an individual and your individual character and your mind.
Right.
No, they judge you by the group, as racist as you can get. And the misogyny of the radical transgender movement, the absolute hatred of women, where they view it as okay to threaten women and intimidate women and bully women. And they do it as if it's the most natural thing in the world. And they believe that they're not, the party and they are not promoting even a more liberal agenda. Understand the fight, which is why we talk about messaging correctly, the discipline in messaging for this administration and Republicans. And I know some of you are sick of hearing it, but the fact is, until they do it consistently for a long period of time, we're going to keep harping on it because we want to win elections.
Well, is all of this going to be for naught? Is all of this the greatest political comeback in American history going to be for nothing? So, yeah, repeating it because the work isn't done yet.
You know, that in the election with the Supreme Court Justice, you know, Scott Jennings and the Republican Party admitting it. There's a ton of people that voted for Trump that could care less about anybody else.
Right.
It was strictly symbolic. They voted for Trump and and apparently don't realize or don't care. Trump can't do anything permanently unless he's got Congress behind them.
Right. That's a huge, and I've been saying this for a while now. He has to be the whip when it comes to Congress. He's got to get all those.
Right.
This is his. And everybody needs to understand that. I know they have to go home and answer to everybody in their district. But he is the leader of the party, and this is his agenda, and he's going to have to be on it. I think there's already some of that, but he's really got to bring the party together in a way that is going to require more phone calls, more meetings, more work.
866-90 Red Eye.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. So I had to go. I haven't checked out the Drudge Report in a long time, and I just wondered, okay, as we leave here, let me just look and see what the lead headline is in the Drudge Report.
And it is?
Booker rocks the Senate. Longest speech in chamber history. Anti-MAGA rant lasts over 24 hours. Huge letters. Yawn.
Nothing on Hollywood? I'm disappointed. Yeah, that is a yawner. Rocks? Is that what he was doing? He was rocking it?
He was rocking the Senate.
All right.
Spartacus rocks.
Okay. Nobody cares.
We all know why he did it. He's trying to get attention. He wants to run for president.
Yep.
He's got nothing. He is
zero.
Somebody said, What's the last bill I saw it yesterday on a podcast. What was the last bill that he introduced? What has he actually done? It's like, that's a great point.
Yeah.
Is he doing
Right. Nobody cares about talking for 25 hours.
Where does he stand on anything, for example? Does anybody know? There are senators that are quiet. There are senators that are not. You know where Rand Paul stands on everything. You know where Ted Cruz stands on everything, right? Mm-hmm. You know where Tom Cotton and Josh Hawley stand on everything. Mm-hmm. Cory Booker, what does he stand for?
25 hours. About.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.